you have really enjoyed your celebration for Feast of Trumpets. And some of us, this is our first time celebrating, and some of us have been celebrating for quite some time. But I'm always so amazed every year that you continue to learn. And it seems like I've started this walk, but there is so much more to learn that I feel like I'm like in the midway. I can't say that I am full of knowledge because there's always so much more to learn. Now we are here in the 7th month, and today we're going to talk about the Feast of Tabernacles. Welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom. We're working towards becoming a harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson. I appreciate you stopping by on today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, comment, like, share this video as a way of you showing your support. The Feast of Tabernacles is also known as Sukkot. For those of you that are new to the Hebrew roots of this walk, it is a temporary shelter, a booth. That's what Feast of Tabernacle is about. Yehovah wanted to remind the children of Israel that they had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years in a temporary shelter because of their unbelief, their disobedience, and their stiff-necked behaviors. Yes, this is about the consequences of not moving forward and being stuck in the wilderness for 40 years. Leviticus chapter 23 verses 41-43 says this. So you should celebrate it as a feast to Yehovah for 7 days in the year. It should be a permanent statute throughout your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall live in booths for 7 days. All the native born in Israel shall live in the booths, so that your generations may know that I had the sons of Israel live in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Elohim and Yehovah. So Moses declared to the sons of Israel the appointed times of Yehovah. You see, after the spies came back with a fearful report, and only 2 of them came back with a conquering report saying, yes, we can do this. But they wanted to stone, the people wanted to stone Moses, Joshua, Caleb, and Aaron because they are saying, yes, we can do this. And Yehovah just wanted to end all this mess because of so much unbelief. So Yehovah said this in Numbers chapter 14, 11-12. And Yehovah said to Moses, how long will this people be disrespectful to me? And how long will they not believe in me, despite all the signs that I have performed in their midst? I will strike them with a plague and dispose of them, and I will make you into a nation greater and mightier than they. So imagine this, millions of people and their unbelief, their disrespect, and what Yehovah is saying, I'm going to just get rid of all of them, and we're going to just start all over, and I'm going to give you a mightier and a greater nation to deal with. Now Moses intercepts. He intercepts and explains what the other nations will think about because the death of the Egyptians and the others, who they heard about this. So what do you think they're going to think what you're going to do to your own people because you couldn't get them to the promised land? So Numbers 14, 15-16, it says, this is Moses talking. Now, if you put this people to death all at once, the nations who have heard of your fame will say, since Yehovah could not bring his people into the land which he promised them by oath, he slaughtered them in the wilderness. So Moses knew that people will have their own opinions if he cannot get his people to the promised land. You notice Moses said all at once. Yehovah agreed with Moses. Instead, he punished those that complained from age 20 and older. And it says, your children, however, whom you said would become plunder, I will bring them in, and they will know the land which you have rejected. Basically, that's what they did. But as for you, your dead bodies will fall in the wilderness. Also, your sons will be shepherds in the wilderness for 40 years, and they will suffer for your unfaithfulness until your bodies perish in the wilderness. In concordance with the number of days that you spied out the land, 40 days, for every day you shall suffer the punishment for your guilt a year, that is 40 years, and you will know my opposition. So Yehovah wasn't planned. He didn't say 40 days to wander in the wilderness. 40 years, for every day that you spied out, you get a year. 40 years. And the bad thing it is, even if you survive 40 years, you won't make it. He already guaranteed you will not survive, those are 20 and older, 40 years. So imagine, you know for sure you only have 40 years to live. The people could not see beyond themselves and not accept the victory Yehovah already gave them. He already gave them the land, and it was already promised to them. This is the same Yehovah that performed many miracles in their sight. So many things that he already performed and proved himself to be right. He proved himself that he can take care of them. He parted the Red Sea, and they walked on dry land. It's not like they walked on wet land. They walked on dry land. He didn't just lead them in the wilderness. He led them by the pillar of cloud by day and the fire by night. That was miraculous. He proven himself time and time again. The Feast of Booths is a reminder for us for 7 days of what happened in the wilderness. That unbelief, that doubt, although Yehovah proven himself, you still doubted him. This is remembrance that happens year after year after year since the children of Israel went to the promised land. When it comes to the feast, I will always attempt to see the whole picture. I see the past, and I want to learn from that, and I want to look forward to the future so I can prepare for that. This leads me to the book of Zechariah. The prophet was letting the people know during the time of Yeshua reign on earth, when his kingship come, that it will be a time that we must celebrate the Feast of Booths. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 16 through 19. And it reads as, when it come about that way, any who are left of all the nations that came against Jerusalem will go up from year to year to worship the King, Yehovah armies, and to celebrate the Feast of Booths. It will be that whichever of the families of the earth does not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King and Jehovah's armies, there will be no rain for them. And if the family of Egypt does not go up to or enter, then no rain will fall on them. It will be a plague with which Yehovah strikes the nations that do not go up to celebrate the Feast of Booths. So there will be a plague for those who do not come up to the Feast of Booths. This will be a punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that do not come up to celebrate the Feast of Booths. So this is in the future. When he reigns, we are going to be required to celebrate the Feast of Booths, and we will go up to Jerusalem. And if you don't, there is consequences, there's no rain, and there will be plagues. This reminds me of trying to be a part of the first death and to reign in tabernacle with Yeshua for 1,000 years to avoid the second death. Revelation 20 verses 4 through 6 says, then I saw thrones that sat upon them, judgment was given to them, and I saw the souls of those who have been beheaded because of their testimony of Yeshua and because the word of Yehovah, And those who have not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received the mark on their foreheads and on their hands, and they came to life and reigned with Messiah, Yeshua, for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until 1,000 years were completed. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is the one who is part of the first resurrection. Over these, the second death has no power, but they will be priests of Yehovah and of Yeshua, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. It says it. Therefore, I must see the whole picture, because it gives me something to hold on to. The past helped me learn to try to prevent myself from creating and ending up in my own wilderness experiences, or learn from, if I did go into wilderness, to learn that and praying that I don't be in the wilderness for 40 years. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, that the Feast of Booths is required for you to go up to Jerusalem. The first day is a high Sabbath, and after 7 days there is an 8th day, and that 8th day is a high Sabbath. So there's 7 days, the first day being a high Sabbath for Feast of Booths, 7 days, and then you have the 8th day, and the 8th day is a high Sabbath. There will be, usually around that time, people have palms, they have branches, they have fruit as part of their celebration in those days. I do realize that we will not be going up to Jerusalem, that there is no temple, but we still can celebrate, memorialize the wilderness experiences, and most of all, do our own best to maintain Jehovah's calendar, because that calendar is very important. We did just read in Revelation 20 that there still will be a Feast of Booths. The date won't change. There still will be a Feast of Booths. So what does it mean to dwell in the booth for 7 days? For some people that are not going to Jerusalem, their congregation usually go to a campsite. Now, there are some that do the campsite on the property of that church, or that organization, but there are some churches who now coming into the faith, so they will have it right there on their property for 7 days. In Jerusalem, the streets are packed with people in all sorts of events. I have never been to Jerusalem myself, so usually when I try to see these things, I go on the website, and they will televise all these events and booths and things that they have. The point is that we are to be dwelling in temporary shelter, as he made the children of Israel do for 40 days. For 40 years, that he made them do for 40 years. But we will be doing it in 7 days. 7 days of reflection that ends with the 8th day as a day of reflections of ourselves. So we've spoken about the Feast of Trumpets. We celebrated the High Sabbath, and we talk about the Pilgrimage Feast. We celebrate with our friends and our family, and we will assembly with others if you can. You can do it online, because I do know that this Hebrew faith groups, there is not many of us, and it's not like, how you see churches like 2 or 3 buildings on one block. And this is just a small group of believers who's reaching out by online, having some type of connection as we continue to grow on this land. Don't forget to join me on Tuesdays at 7:00 p.m. for Torah Chat Points, and see you on next Saturday at 10:00 a.m. For the Sabbath discussion. Don't forget to join me on Tuesday at 7:00 p.m. the Sabbath day at 10:00 a.m. So next week our discussion will be about the great 8th day at 10 o'clock a.m. on Saturday, and I will see you then. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. May Yehovah shine his face on you and give his peace. May he shine his face towards you and give you his favor. In the name of Yeshua, amen. Thank you.